Hey, welcome back everybody to Evil's Comics. I'm Evil Mike and I got another review for you. This is going to be from Comixology and Dark Horse Comics. We got We Have Demons #1. It is written by Scott Snyder, art by Greg Capullo, and then we got, let me get the, then we got inks by Jonathan Glapion, colors by Dave McCain, and letters by Tom Napolitano. Sorry if I mispronounced any of those names. I do love Scott Snyder and Greg Capullo. This was a big one on my list that I wanted to read. This issue did not disappoint. It was extremely good. The art was excellent. The story was really good. But I'm going to leave the comic at a so-so. It depends on what we get going. This comic didn't disappoint for the price tag. It was a little more pricier than a regular book, but there was a lot of comic art story in the book. It does open up with a warning. Basically, this is going to be, from the title, We Have Demons. This is going to be, everything you can imagine from that title. It's going to be bloody and horrific, demons, guts and all that good stuff. Well, basically, the narrator of the story, we find out, is Lamb, named after the angel, like Lamoresu or something like that. But Lamb is basically trying to start the story of how, the Earth finally, not really Earth, but where humans finally, failed to exist anymore, and the demons kind of overrun us. But it does start off, and it shows you a lot of, Capullo's great art and the great colors. Like I said, there's a lot of story. I'm not going to go over everything because there is a crap ton of story. And in the beginning, it's kind of all over the place because Lamb doesn't really know where to start the story, which is kind of fun. But they kind of show you shots of like different things from the past that led up to the point that she's trying to tell the story of how, demons are a normal thing. It does start out with her and her dad, Cashel Cullen. And it starts off with like one of the earliest recollections of her and her dad, and it's of her getting bit by a snake, and he had to chop off her arm at the at that point there, to stop the venom from spreading, and killing her. And for the rest of that point, she wears a prosthetic arm that her father, from that point on, started building her and making her. It does say in the book that he has very technical friends that over the ages have been helping him build her the prosthetic arm. They do show you that he always tags it, and each year he builds her a new one, and each year they get better and better, and they advance. But they kind of explain that her dad's a preacher. He's got a church. He's a godly man, and basically he's been stating the end of the world kind of thing has been coming. And there's other things that are mentioned, that he goes on these trips, that he has these friends, like I mentioned the technical friends, but he mentions these other friends that he has, like his best friend, that she's never seen and never shown. It does go into detail about his dad, like her mom had passed away, which they don't go into too much detail about that, but they do go into that his dad remarries, and that his mom turns out to be really good and a godly woman, and she encouraged, she's right there with the church. And it does go forward where it shows a couple different, as Lamb is growing up, it shows a couple different of her memories with her dad. And there's one time that she mentions, that we all have demons inside of us, and he's like, no, and he gets all angry, and he's like, never say that again. There's some other fleeting, moments from different parts of Lamb's life. It's kind of all over the place as far as that, but it's not so hard to follow. She's narrating, as it's going along and stuff like that. They do get to a point where her father is eventually murdered, it turns out to be. She shows up at the funeral, which she explains is kind of a blur. She does remember seeing a group of odd people right here that she didn't recognize, and out of like all the funeral people besides her mom or her new mom, they're the only ones that seem to be like hurt and afflicted by his death. Um, they show her later on kind of exploring in the house, just kind of like being upset and sad that her dad not only was murdered but has passed away. But kind of contemplating what her dad was into, because it does explain like that there is several parts where she started like, as she got older, she started like kind of second guessing, hey, I'm going on a trip with some friends, and it does show that she started to like, after he left or when he got back, she started to look through his things, and his calendar always said like, when he left on a trip that he was going to hell. There was one time she found his shirt covered in blood. So back to where I was. She's eventually like stumbling through the house, all sad and everything, and she does accidentally like throw her prosthetic arm into the snake that literally bit her. Her dad had it stuffed, and as like he called it his attraction to sin. Basically like the sin was always right there around the corner trying to get you, kind of thing. But she threw the prosthetic limb and it ended up hitting the snake, and it opens up a trap door. We see in the trap door that there's all kind of occult stuff down here, like weird statues, books, all kind of stuff, maybe weapons. And we do see that on the table that her dad was, there's an axe, and we do see like a whole bunch of pictures of murdered people and stuff like that. And quickly out of the shadows, someone starts talking to her, and it turns out to be her new mom. Mom telling her that her dad was a good man, even though there's pictures of murdered people on the table and stuff like that. But basically that he was a part of a society that's existed since the beginning of time. And she goes into detail about that there are two forces that came to Earth way early on, like back way before the dinosaurs. And one of them is called Horn, and the other is called Halo. Horn is basically like the evil version, Halo is the good side. When they first came here, they buried themselves in the earth, hidden, waiting for whatever they were waiting for, evil side or good side. But eventually it does state that Horn eventually didn't wait so long, and eventually corrupted waited around for an evolved species, which of course was man. And at the time when man first rose, it wasn't just, man, one species. We had Neanderthals, we had, Homo Cro-Magnon, we had there were several different, but supposedly the Horn selected the most powerful and brutal and turned them into the very first inclination of demons. After that, Halo kind of kicked in. And people around the world started noticing that when they used excessive amounts of faith or love or good feelings, stuff like that, that certain magical items would like interact with that faith or something. In this case, it was weapons, and that's where, in this story, like eventually humanity to defend off these new demons that were threatening our species, they developed, they basically had these like faith-based weapons that they show. And basically like this group of kind of like knights or whatever, but they're called they're basically working for the Halo, the good force. But basically that's how it goes, that these demons rise and they keep coming. It says that even though like at one point all the knights of Halo had stopped most of the demons in the world, and the Horn, the element, keeps sending stuff up to corrupt stuff. So it's ongoing. It also states that even if we go into the earth and deplete all the Horn that's here, Horn keeps sending like meteors or stuff to Earth. So it's a constant battle with evil. As far as Halo, ever since way back in the day when it first came here, that's the only time Halo has ever sent anything to Earth. So the faith-based weapons are getting like very few, compared to how they used to be. The book starts out and it says that there were weapons made from this faith-based stuff. And now where the story takes place, it's down to like 11, and after the father died, I think it's down to like 10 or something like that. They do kind of catch up with like a more current state with Lamb, and she's basically now a new knight of the Halo after being convinced by the mom or whatever that she's doing God's work. She is with the Spoon family that are supposed to be God-fearing people and everything, and supposedly if she takes the axe and gets them near these people, it's supposed to show signs of demon. It's supposed to light up if they're demon, hidden. And the axe does not work. Somehow, and weirdly enough, she ends up going to sleep after finding out the Spoons are not demons, that her dad was just crazy. And quickly after she falls asleep, we do see that the dad wasn't crazy, and that the Spoons were, in fact, demons, and there's this whole thing that ensues. But quickly after they appear, just like that, they kind of disappear, and we find out why. And we meet her father's best friend, who's been mentioned several times throughout the book, but it's the first time we finally meet him. And this is Gus, and it looks like he is, in fact, a demon himself that is fighting for the good side. He does quickly give her a present from her dad, and saying that he had been building this present for forever, and it's finally time for her to wield it, and it is a new prosthetic arm. There is kind of a funny, where she flicks a finger at evil, and that's where this book leaves off. There is a whole article from Scott Snyder about why he chose to go with Dark Horse and Comicology, and now I kind of came up with the story. There's also an early draft, basically the note that he sent to maybe Greg Capullo and the other people on his crew on how the story was, and it's basically I want to say a 5 or 6 page basically script of the whole it looks like the first issue or whatever. So all that was pretty dope. But that is my review on the first issue of We Have Demons. Nothing but good things. I can say, as far as for me, I was kind of waiting for a cliffhanger, something that gripped me enough to get me to go to the second issue. I'm definitely going to the second issue as far as it being that gripping story that I was kind of hoping for. It's not there yet, but I haven't lost faith. It's still a great story. Everything that they've shown and talked about in the story I love. I'm hoping it gets a lot more gruesome, a lot more, engaging. But I love the whole good versus evil. Now we got these knights versus these demons. Let's hit it. But hey, that's my review. Please like, comment, subscribe. Leave me a comment below if you read this book. If you haven't, why'd you pass it up? If you have, what'd you think about it? I know we are at the 3rd issue already. I do have the 3rd issue. I don't have the 2nd, but I heard the 2nd is on its way. As soon as I get it, I'll give you the review on that. But other than that, that's all I got. I will see y'all later, and y'all have a good night. Bye!